Okay, let's just get right into this. We are standing smack in the middle of a global technological revolution. And honestly, I know you can feel the sheer velocity of it. Artificial intelligence? It's not just a buzzword anymore. It is fundamentally rewriting the rules of how we work, how we create, and really just how we live. So today, in this explainer, we're going to unpack the reality of this AI explosion. We're cutting straight through all the online hype to look at the actual mechanics of how these systems work, the very real threat they pose to human creativity, and ultimately, how you can navigate your own future in this space.
And look, the timeline of human adoption here is just insanely fast. To put this into perspective, it took Netflix 3.5 years to reach 1 million users. Twitter took 2 years. Facebook, 10 months. Instagram did it in 2.5 months. But ChatGPT, 5 days. Literally, in just 5 days, 1 million people had adopted this tool. It became the fastest-growing online service in human history purely because suddenly everyone had access to this interface that could seamlessly imitate human conversation.
So if you're feeling a little anxious about what this tech can do, trust me, your anxiety is completely validated. I mean, within seconds, AI is generating Ultra HD art in any style, perfectly cloning human voices, writing entire screenplays, coding complex software. It really feels like this unstoppable, magical force that's just disrupting absolutely every sector all at once. But to master it, we first have to demystify it.
All right, moving into Section 1, How does AI think? Unpacking the mechanics of large language models.
Which brings us to a really major question. These AI systems can write stories, answer questions, crack jokes perfectly, but are they actually thinking the way the human brain does? Well, the contrast in how learning happens is actually pretty stark. Human learning is dynamic, right? It's driven by neuroplasticity, neurons wiring together based on your experiences. And here's the kicker. Your brain can learn from just a few examples. Even a single exposure to a new concept can form a lasting memory. AI, on the other hand, learns through a completely artificial, totally static process called backpropagation. To learn a new word or concept, a large language model needs to process millions, literally millions, of text examples, running these endless forward and backward passes just to refine its predictions.
Let's look at information processing, because this builds on that idea. When you or I read a sentence, we aren't decoding it word by single word. We're grasping broad chunks of meaning, linking ideas to our prior knowledge and context. But AI? AI doesn't process concepts. It processes discrete symbols called tokens. When you give an AI a prompt, it's really just calculating attention scores across multiple layers to figure out which token is most statistically relevant to predict the next one. It's next-step pattern completion. It is not conscious reasoning.
So the absolutely crucial point here is embodiment. This is what strips away all the magic. You exist in a real physical world. Your understanding of, say, wetness comes from the physical sensation of water. You know that if you drop a marker, it falls because you live with gravity. AI models are entirely disembodied. They exist as software on servers. They don't taste, they don't smell, they don't feel. Their entire knowledge of the physical world is completely secondhand, learned entirely through text written by us. It's exactly why AI can sometimes confidently hallucinate a scenario where a dropped marker magically floats upwards, because it's just stringing together tokens from some sci-fi book it read.
Which takes us to Section 2, Imitation versus True Creativity, the Human Edge in Art.
Since AI only knows what it's been fed, it obviously triggers this massive debate around jobs and art. With AI instantly turning out these beautiful paintings and catchy songs, is this the end for human artists? Have we totally lost the battle for creativity? But before we go declaring the death of art, we have to ask a kind of provocative question. Can humans even think originally? The philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti famously argued that human minds are deeply conditioned from childhood, built entirely on the thoughts and observations of others, and the legendary writer Mark Twain bluntly stated that there is no such thing as a totally new idea.
Twain actually compared the creative process to a mental kaleidoscope. All our new ideas are really just older, existing ideas, like colored beads in a kaleidoscope just shaken up into new, curious combinations. I mean, think about human art schools. We train painters by having them study Van Gogh and Rembrandt. We train filmmakers by showing them Scorsese and Satyajit Ray. We are literally feeding them data of past masters. So when an AI analyzes Studio Ghibli films to generate a Ghibli-style image, it's essentially doing the exact same thing humans do, imitating previous styles.
But
Here's exactly where the human edge lies. The independent filmmaker Jim Jarmusch tells artists to absorb everything around them: movies, books, architecture, clouds, conversations, the whole shebang. But he adds this absolutely vital instruction: steal only those elements that speak directly to your soul. And that right there is the difference. Genuine human creativity is filtered through your authentic, lived, personal experience. AI has no soul, it has no feelings, and zero personal experiences to filter that data through. Okay, Section 3, the threat to formula, when AI competes with factories.
So authentic art is safe, but the real threat isn't to true creativity, it's to formula. Corporate factory films, and we're talking everything from standardized Hollywood sequels to Bollywood masala movies, they operate on strict, highly predictable templates. The hero's entry, the repetitive character arcs, those standardized hospital scenes, it's all formula. Production companies often operate like fast food chains, standardizing their recipes to maximize efficiency. And if the goal is purely to produce standardized, mechanical, template-based content, well, AI can analyze target segments, optimize plot tension, and generate those predictable action sequences way faster and way cheaper than humans ever could.
Now contrast that factory model with authentic creators. Filmmakers like Anurag Kashyap or Dibakar Banerjee, they create deeply personal, empathetic work that reacts to real-world socio-political circumstances and their own lived struggles. And AI simply cannot replicate a film born out of a director's deeply personal journey of overcoming addiction or dealing with societal violence. Because AI cannot experience those things, period.
Let's pivot to Section 4, Scams, Propaganda, and Danger, the dark side of AI disruption.
While individual, authentic artists might be safe, AI is causing massive disruption elsewhere in our political and personal lives. The malicious uses of machine learning, they're already here. We saw early forms of this with the whole Cambridge Analytica scandal, where data was used to micro-target voters with specific political propaganda based on their personal fears. Now it's escalating rapidly. IT cells are using AI to instantly morph images, like altering photos from protests to completely rewrite the narrative by adding fake smiles to the participants. And it gets even more personal and scary with deepfake videos and AI voice cloning.
This number, it's honestly terrifying. 83%. Researchers found that it takes just 3 seconds of audio to clone someone's voice with 85% accuracy. Just 3 seconds. Scammers are pulling audio from social media, perfectly cloning the voices of family members, and calling people begging for emergency money. And according to a recent study, 83% of Indian voice scam victims ended up losing their money because the AI impersonation was just that convincing. Which leads us to this incredible paradox. Artificial intelligence can save democracy, unless it destroys it first. The flood of AI-generated misinformation, morphed photos, and scams is overwhelming. And ironically, the only way we will likely be able to combat this sheer scale of digital deception is by utilizing specialized AI tools to detect and neutralize the fakes. It is an absolute arms race right now.
Finally, Section 5, Mastering the New Tool. Adapting to the AI revolution. So, with all this disruption swirling around, how do you actually survive and thrive? Well, it's time to stop fearing the technology and start figuring out how you can master it. According to the World Economic Forum, by the year 2025, about 85 million jobs globally are expected to be wiped out by AI. But, and this is the important part, surprisingly, 97 million entirely new jobs are projected to emerge.
The absolutely crucial point to understand here is that AI is not a job killer, it is a job category killer. The purely mechanical, repetitive tasks, like manually trimming video clips or writing generic boilerplate emails, yeah, those are disappearing for sure, but entirely new roles are expanding rapidly. We're going to need people who know how to manage these systems, prompt them effectively, modify their outputs, and really partner with AI to achieve greater things.
In fact, AI is an incredible equalizer for individuals going up against massive corporate monopolies. Look at what you can do as a single person now. You can build a website instantly, automate hours of deep research in seconds, generate fully customized presentations. If you want to write a children's book but can't afford an illustrator, well, AI can help you do it. An individual creator can now produce indie animations or computer games almost entirely on their own. It drastically reduces costs and massively amplifies your individual power.
Which brings us to the most important takeaway of this entire explainer. AI won't take your job, but a person knowing AI will. Look, this isn't some sci-fi fight between humans and machines. It's a transition phase. The The people who refuse to adapt are going to be replaced by the people who embrace these tools to work faster and smarter. Upskilling, it's no longer optional, it is an absolute necessity.
AI is just a tool, just like a calculator, just like a computer, just like your smartphone. It lacks a soul, it lacks physical embodiment, and it lacks true personal experience. But you have all of those things. So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. How will you use AI to elevate your own human experience? The choice is entirely yours. Keep learning, keep adapting, and I'll see you